All right, girls and boys, it is time for our second chapter of the scaling book, Building Your Dev Team. So, problems we're going to solve today. What happens if you don't code? How do you put together a development team? Can you get a free dev team? It sounds like kind of a rhetorical question here, like, oh, the answer must be no, but it's not. The answer is yes, you can get a free dev team. We'll talk about how to do that. Where do you find a team to help you write your code? And then how do you attract the best developers to your development team if you are not one? All right, so there are three types of development teams that you could potentially use. Number one, outsourcing. You can outsource your development work to an external team. Now, like when I say outsourcing, I mean, could be, of course, to India, Asia, India, China, any places like those. But it could also be outsourcing to an agency within the United States or Europe, all that kind of stuff. So anyone who's not within your organization, you're paying them to do something. We're calling that outsourcing. Number two, you sourcing. You could do the work. So you can learn to become a developer. And then you can actually write the code yourself. Or you can use some incredible tools that are out there and available now today to do most of the heavy lifting for you. And finally, friend sourcing. So we'll talk about how you can work with your friends to create something amazing, or if you don't have those kind of friends with those skills, how to get those kind of friends to build something amazing. So let's do a pro and con list for each one of these so we can see, so you can decide which one's best for you. On the outsourcing front, start with the pros. The pros are, of the three models that are out there, this is going to be the fastest way to get something built, although it is not fast. None of these, of the automating of your solution is going to be fast at all. That's why we're waiting so long to do this. We're waiting until after you validated it manually, because it's going to be very expensive from both a time and money perspective. So, but the fastest way to do this is going to be to outsource it. You are going to probably get moderate quality depending on where you outsource. So we should have a separate section for what I'm about to say, and it should, maybe it goes somewhere else. This is its own concept. Where to find your outsourcing team. So I'm going to make some gross generalizations here, and there will be a number of exceptions for what I'm about to say. However, my personal experience has been, I've outsourced with organizations in both India and in China. And then I've obviously done extensive work with developers here in the United States. To outsource to India and China is going to be the least expensive option that you can have, but it's also going to be, from my experience, has been the lowest quality. Both in terms of communication quality is very low, quality of code is very low, ability to execute what we need at the right time frame, it's all very low. So I personally have had very non-optimal experiences working with outsourcing firms from India and China. Again, gross generalizations. I'm sure there are lots of good contractors in those places. I personally have not had good experience with them. I have worked with a number of developers in the United States. The quality of developers in the United States, the quality of communication, the deliverables have been much, much higher quality. Somewhere in between, I haven't worked with them personally, but I've heard great things about developers, outsourcers in places like the Ukraine. So sort of in the Baltic region or Eastern Europe, I've heard some really nice things that they are both extremely competent and are less expensive than developers here in the United States. So of those three regions, I would sort of tend towards Eastern Europe if I'm going to pay someone. I'll get a little better price deal, and the quality will be higher than someone in India or China, from my experience, from my perspective. Okay, so with that caveat, moderate quality. So again, going with an outsourcing firm based in Eastern Europe, you're probably going to get some moderate quality. It will not be top quality. It will not be as if it's built in-house by your own development team, but you're paying for moderate quality, so they should be up to your standards, at least when the standards of when you ask for the product to be done. It can be extremely expensive to keep an ongoing relationship. So it might be at a specific quality in a point in time, and then you might end that relationship and then have to start it back up if you want to change things. And this is typically a good short-term solution. If you are going, hey, you know what? I know exactly what we're doing. We just need to automate the thing that we're already doing. And as soon as I automate that, I can go and I can crush a number of different channels and maybe even other customer segments. And once the product is done, it's mostly done. So if you've got that kind of project, outsourcing may be the best bet for you, because you can just invest some money, get it done, be done with it, and then grow, 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 grow. If, however, you're looking for something that's long-term that you're going to have to keep building and adding features on over and over and over again, this is going to, and we'll shift over to the con side, get very, very expensive. So con side, it's just extremely expensive. You're paying someone else's salary at this point. If you've got that kind of money either from your currency test that you've already generated as prepayments, then great, you can go and use it here. Or if you've got it saved up, you can use it, but know that it is the most expensive option of all of these. Communication is hard and often bad. So communication is hard for a number of reasons. One is logistics, simply time zone. If you're outsourcing to anyone who's not within a couple hours of when you are, typically you'll send some information to them. They will be asleep when you send the information. They will go and work on something while you're asleep, and then they'll send you something back. And so it typically takes a day, for if something's wrong, you'll send it to them and they'll get it back to you. And so it takes a full day, as opposed to if you're doing it yourself or working with some friends, you can typically do 3 or 4 iterations on a day. So that's one reason why communication is hard. Second reason why communication is hard is you are probably not good at defining your requirements. Unless you've done that in a previous role where you have been a product manager, it is very, very difficult to actually describe what you want done, because you are going to have some vision of what you want done based on your own manual workflow, and you're going to try to explain that to someone, but they're going to have a different interpretation of that, and so they're going to implement it differently than you expect. And so it's not to no fault of their own. You guys are just going to have to go back and forth several times on actually communicating, this is what I really wanted. That plus, when I say is and bad, oftentimes when you're outsourcing, you may end up working with developers whose native language is not the same as yours. And if that's the case, then communication can simply be bad. It may be untimely, or it may simply, you may be speaking at different levels or have different interpretations of things. So that just really slows down things when you've got poor communication. Poor long-term quality. So whenever you pay someone for a short-term endeavor, they are going to invest, they're going to do whatever it takes to get your money in as short of a term as they can. So they're not going to necessarily invest in long-term maintainability, a long-term platform, all that kind of stuff. So you just got to watch out for that this may not be the right long-term solution for you, but it could be a nice stopgap, or if it's not particularly complex, it might be something that is good for long-term. But if you've got any sort of complexity, this probably won't be a great long-term solution. You'll need to get some in-house developers eventually. Another con is that it can be difficult to change. You will go and implement something, you'll pay for it. A month later, you'll realize, oh my gosh, I need this extra little feature or this thing tweaked, and then you'll have to go back to that development team. If they're not available, then you have to wait until they are available to actually work on it again. So you kind of have to get things right the first time, and so it can be difficult to make those tweaks, and of course it's expensive to do that as well. Going down to maintenance, to have ongoing maintenance to this thing, again, you're having to pay someone's salary over and over again, so that can get expensive. So outsourcing is going to be great if you've got a simple solution or something, or you've got enough money to pay for it, or you've got something that you just need kind of a stopgap for. Outsourcing can be a great solution, especially if you need it quickly. Okay, U-sourcing. Now, U-sourcing is entirely different. This is, assuming you're not a developer yourself, you can learn how to code. There are some incredible schools out there that teach you how to code. You obviously can go to college and learn how to code. So that's the downside. We'll start with the downsides here on U-sourcing. Actually, no. For consistency's sake, we're going to start with the pros. So anyway, so there are a lot of ways that you can learn to code. Okay, so U-sourcing. So pros. it is free-ish, kind of, sort of, depending on how you look at free. You can learn how to code without spending any money at all. Like, that is totally a possibility. So in that way, it can be free, but it won't be free in terms of time. It will take you a long time to learn how to write code. You can also take classes, and those will cost you some money too. So know that it can be very inexpensive to do this. So if you don't have any money at all to pay outsourcers, this may be one of the only ways to go. Another pro, I think it's fun. So this is me personally. Solving problems with code is super fun. That's probably why I became a developer. So for you, it might also be fun if you like puzzles. If you find that you're good with just sort of logic. If you're good at arguing with people in a logical way, you might find that programming is really fun for you. If you're in any sort of science field or engineering field now, but maybe not programming, you might find that you just sort of take to it naturally. If you play with numbers quite a bit, if you're into finance or accounting, then you might find that it just comes naturally to you. Okay. Third pro is that there are a lot of great tools available now that can do the vast majority of heavy lifting for you. So whether it's a landing page creator or even an entire site creator like WordPress, WordPress has a great framework, and you can build an entire application, web application, on top of WordPress, and maybe some plugins that can do a lot of stuff. You may be able to build a lot of it yourself anyway, and then you can either pay someone to do little tweaks on the thing, or you can simply learn some PHP and some MySQL and some database stuff to get yourself ramped up. So, there's also tools to help you build apps for the phone. So anyway, there are a lot of potential tools out there that can do a lot of what you may need for you. So you can take a look at those. It will have the appropriate quality. When I say appropriate quality, you will know exactly how high quality it needs to be because you will be testing all the time. So you can actually start with a low quality product and then sort of work your way up the quality ladder if it's necessary to keep your lifetime value and your K factor at the appropriate levels. So you will always have the appropriate quality because you will always be in control of how high quality the product is. It's a good medium-term solution. So you can probably get yourself the capabilities, if you're into programming or want to learn, to go build a solution that will last for a little while. Be medium term. You can do patchwork stuff here and you can fix it, maybe get some help every once in a while. It won't be a great long-term solution because you'll have to get someone in eventually, unless you want to do this full-time, someone in to do that for you full-time. But definitely it can last you longer than an outsourced solution, depending on how you go. Of course, if you do it just bare bones yourself with a bunch of tools and patching things together, it may only be a stopgap, but it has the potential to be a long-term solution or medium-term solution. It's easy to make changes because you built the thing, so you're going to know how to make changes. And then maintenance is also easy-ish. So you will have the capability, since you built the thing, you'll be able to be around and continue to maintain it. Although you may eventually run into sort of roadblocks, places that your expertise is not going to help you out. Now the cons with this is that programming is hard. So it doesn't come to everyone naturally. It requires a lot of time in front of a computer, a lot of time alone. It requires great attention to detail. It can require some intense focus at times. So it just isn't for everyone. So it may not be a great fit for you. It takes a long time. So this is going to take you a long time to learn how to code and to do this from scratch. So just know that. It's distracting. You have been doing a ton of work with your customers to understand what their problems are, the channels that you can go reach them, the message you need to use, the pricing. For you to step out of that world and your touch points with your customers and then go learn how to code can be extremely distracting. And maybe it takes you 6-9 months to build something, and by the time you get back to your customers, maybe things have changed a little bit. So it's a big investment of time and energy. So I would say U-sourcing is a great thing to do if the tools that are available allow you to cobble together a solution that is going to meet your needs in terms of scaling. It's going to reduce the time that you have to spend manually providing your solution, and if this is interesting to you, if it's compelling to you, so that you'll keep doing it. So with those two things in mind, I would definitely consider U-sourcing. We'll talk about how to make that decision, like how much it'll if it's worth implementing these features and if you'll make them enough money and yada 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 in a couple chapters. But definitely consider U-sourcing if you can find some tools out there that do the vast majority of the heavy lifting for you, and it's an interesting path from a personal perspective. All right, the third approach, friend sourcing. This one is my favorite by far. Okay, so friend sourcing. What friend sourcing is, this is working with a group of friends to build something awesome. That's it. Now, this is not friend taking advantage of, friend exploiting. This is not bribing. This is really a group of friends coming together to do something incredible. And that's what you want to do. That's what you want to create. That's what you want to offer to your friends. So we'll talk about, if you have these friends, this will make sense and you'll understand like how to get them on board. But if you don't have friends with the skill sets you need, we'll also talk about how to make those friends. So anyway, the pros to doing this are going to be sort of straightforward. First, it can be very inexpensive. In fact, sometimes it can be free. You can get an entire dev team to donate essentially their time to your cause. It can be extremely fun, and you can build incredible relationships with people this way. It can be a potential long-term solution because you can actually find your potential co-founder or first employees this way. This can be a great way to get a group of people together to actually build something, see what it looks like to work together, and then maybe they are so enthralled with solving this particular problem that they want to work with you long-term. It can be the highest quality option because you have people who are doing this because it is interesting to them. Then they are going to make a really high quality product, and because it's a potential long-term solution, it's a long-term solution as far as product building goes, they are going to be thinking long-term as well. So this can be the highest quality solution of the three. It can be easy to make changes because you've built real relationships with these people, and if you're doing it in an inexpensive or free way, then they often will do the changes for free and make the maintenance easier for you. So that's the great side of friend sourcing. The downside of friend sourcing is it can take a long time to build your friendship team, the team that's going to help you do this. So it's a big investment, although I would say it's not as distracting as learning how to code yourself. Another downside is that if you don't get a long-term solution here, if you don't find someone who's willing to jump in and work with you long-term, maybe for equity or something, then they will be short-term. So this will be a short-term project. There are very few times you can find a medium-term friend sourcing. It's either a very short period of time or it's going to be for the length of the company. So often it will be that short time period, which can be great, but can also, it may not be as long as you want it. To that point, team members can be flaky. You are friend sourcing this. That means you're doing this with friends. That means that they can simply get distracted. They can have personal things come up. Oftentimes the people you'll be working with will be in between jobs, or they'll be doing things as a part-time, they'll be doing this as part-time because they really want a different kind of job, and so they'll eventually find that job. So people can come and go. So you're going to have to be strategic about how you use everyone so that you can get something out of them before they move on to the next thing, if they're not going to be a long-term partner. And then the truth is you may need to start over. These are friends, and these are a group of people who are doing things for little if no money at all, and they could end up building something you might not be able to use going forward. So they may end up building you something that's good enough, and then you end up needing to totally revise it later down the road. So just something to keep an eye out. But let's dive into this whole friend sourcing thing a little bit and talk about how to actually go about making it happen. Well, first, I want to give you some examples. So I've actually done friend sourcing before, and I did it on a company called OnCompare. And OnCompare had 11 people on our team. And 11 people, we launched a company in 3 weeks. So we went from nothing to an entirely launched company at a big conference, the Launch Conference in San Francisco. And we did it all in 3 weeks. So it was amazing. I think we had 5 developers on the team. We had marketing, we had social media, we had me. It was just an awesome experience. And you can actually read about our entire story from beginning to end at this link at 3weekstolive.wordpress.com. You can see that's the OnCompare blog, and you can read about all the people in these pictures, some of whom didn't for the reasons. So some people were working on this project despite the fact they had other real jobs, and they didn't want to be known to be working on this kind of high profile project. So they had pseudonyms, or we didn't picture them. But anyway, it was amazing. Yeah. So some details about how this came about. So this comes about because I'm friends, I'm working in an office space with some developers, and it turns out that 3 of the developers happened to basically get laid off. They got laid off, or actually there was 4 of the developers who got laid off, and I happened to be working on this idea, or just had this idea, like, oh, what if we built a Yelp for online services, a way to review different online tools so you could figure out what the best one is for you. And just so happened these guys were sort of in between jobs, and I said, oh, well, if you guys want something to work on while you're looking for something new, I got this idea I'm really excited about. What do you think? And I pitched it to them, and it turns out that they were really excited about it. They were going to continue interviewing at other places, but they were game to give it a shot. And so that was sort of the start of our team. We started with, I think it was 5 of us. No, it was 4 of us. 4 of us got together and we started, and then from there it just sort of grew. Like, we knew another guy who was a member of our community, and he was in between. He was a freelancer and he was looking for something else, and so we brought him on board. And then we got another recommendation from another friend, and eventually the thing just grew and grew and grew until we had 11 people, all of whom were basically in a transition period. They had all had jobs before, and they were looking for something new and something different. And so this provided an opportunity for all of them to come together, to network, and to build something. And developers and engineers and creative people love to build and create things. So this is an opportunity for all of us to do that, to work on something we were all passionate about. We all saw the pain of trying to pick between the best online services. And so this momentum, this energy, this excitement around this idea sort of brought everyone together. And because it was for a short period of time, just 3 weeks, everyone could commit fully to those 3 weeks, and then we all knew that they could go on and they would pursue their own ventures. So it was a very unique experience, and one that it wasn't just like it wasn't just a flash in the pan. I mean, it was a very short-lived, but we did some amazing things during our time. So we got invited to the launch conference for free. So we came down and we launched at the launch conference. This was based in Seattle, so we went down to San Francisco to make this happen. We also worked with Twilio. We actually partnered with them to throw a big launch party. So we had 1,000 people at our launch party. This is Daniel Morel, forget how to pronounce her name, but she's now CEO of Mattermark, and this was back when she was at Twilio. And so we worked with her to put on this party, and we had like a huge group of people. We had a line of people standing outside the door for basically a big event for the launch of this product. And the software was badass. It was just awesome. It was super, super cool. I really wish there was something around today that did something like this. But ultimately, it turns out that we didn't do what was in focus. We didn't actually talk to our customers. So we built some amazing stuff, but we didn't do all the work that you have done so far. So ultimately, this was a failure from a company's perspective, but man, was it incredible from a building and launching perspective. So that's OnCompare. That's our 11-person team. But it turns out that's not the only time I've done friend sourcing. I've done friend sourcing successfully not once, but twice. So on Things We Start, we put together a 7-person team. So on Things We Start, this was a service that would show you all of the Kickstarter projects that were happening around you, so you can support local initiatives. Like, if a local movie wanted to get made, or a local artist wanted to do something, so you could see what was around you. So this was another just random idea that I had, another totally unvalidated idea, but I was able to get some people interested in the idea just because they were everyone was excited about crowdfunding, and Kickstarter was new when we started this. And then again, there was a number of people who were in between jobs who were very capable people, but I just happened to be hanging around with them, and I heard what they were up to, and I was like, hey, while you're looking, do you want to come work on this thing with us? So that turned into Things We Start, and you can see our story, the story of that team, at kickmapper.wordpress.com. So again, super cool people, super cool team. We came together. I think we launched this from beginning to end in 6 weeks. A product I was super proud of, and that one got a ton of press Um, because if you've seen my press hack, that's the one we use the press hack for. So it's a super exciting project. But I basically want to talk about what's the similarities. Like, how did I go about building these teams of people so that you can think about how to build them for yourself. So the similarities between these two. Number one, all of the development was done for free. So there was, in OnCompare, we did talk about, hey, if something happens after these 3 weeks, then we'll worry about equity then. But for now, it's all free. Everyone donated their time to this project because they were super passionate and excited about what we were doing. Now that is in part about the product we were building, but also they were just super excited and passionate about launching something. They were excited to work with a small team. They were excited to do startup things. So there are a lot of things that you can bring to the table that can get people excited about what you're doing if you think about them in a certain perspective. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this was all done for free. So basically I got 3 weeks of 11 people's time, 10 people's time, so that's 30 free weeks, and then I got 6 weeks of 6 people's time, so that's another 36 weeks. So I've gotten a total of over a year's worth of development time for free because we were doing something that people were really genuinely interested in doing. So we'll talk about how you can sort of make that happen for your teams as well. They were obviously short term. One was 3 weeks and one was 6 weeks. So we were explicit about that this is a short term building experience. If it turned out that there was something there and they would have actually worked, there are people from each of those teams I could have continued to work with. But it turns out that these not only failed, but everyone was basically signed up for a short term experience. So definitely think about that when you're trying to do a friend sourcing deal. It has to be either short term, or if you find the right person amongst that team that's interested in going long term, then you can possibly make it long term. Number 3, they built amazing products. These were some of the best products not only that I've ever created, but I've ever seen. Because people were really passionate about what we were doing, they built really amazing things. So just know that the value of passion is extremely high, and it's something you can't buy. You can't buy people's passion with money. So this skill that you're going to learn to do, that you learn how to do by friend sourcing, is going to, pay in spades, even when you can pay someone's salary, because they're going to build amazing products with you. And number 4, the similarities, they were both failures. I want to make this very clear. Both of those projects were huge failures because, again, we didn't do what's in focus. We didn't find early adopters. We didn't do offer testing, didn't do currency testing, didn't do utility testing, any of that stuff. We went straight to product development, and that's why they failed. You, on the other hand, have done all that work, and so you are not going to have these just big disastrous failures like I did. These processes, by the way, these products, are part of my learning to go and build focus. These are experiences I took to heart, and I really sort of dissected and said what went wrong, what happened, what didn't we do right, and then went back and fixed it. And I'll tell you, at the time, I thought I was doing customer development. It hasn't been until I had several other projects that I actually realized how the process all works. So you are getting the benefit of those failures in focus, and you'll be able to see the continuum, and now you'll be able to apply what you've done to create a successful company. All right, so the keys to friend sourcing. How can you go and build your friend source team? Number 1, you need to treat your team like your customers. Treat your team like your customers. By that I mean, you need to be thinking about how you can serve your teammates, just like you think about how you serve customers. These aren't people you are tricking into working for you. They're not people that you get to abuse. You are not Steve Jobs. You do not get to treat people poorly. Your job is to understand how can you serve someone on their path and their journey. And in doing so, they will hopefully want to, in helping them serve, you need to find a way to serve them on their path in a way that is mutually beneficial. So you need to understand the problems that they're trying to solve with their current situation. Maybe it's they want to find a new job, and this is an opportunity for them to show off what they've done during the downtime so they don't have a down spot on their resume. Maybe they have a current job and they would like to play with a startup, and they would like to see what that's like without having to quit their job. They would like to do something new or interesting or customer facing, that they work in a big B2B place and they or a big government organization. They want to do something that people are actually going to use. There are lots of problems that developers have that you can help them solve with your potential project. So you need to treat them like customers, not only for this friend sourcing thing, but when you start to build your company. The best leaders are the leaders who enable their employees, who enable them to achieve their great success. And that's how you get amazing products. Again, that passion thing, those products were some of the best I've ever seen in the world because they were built on passion, not built on high salaries. All right, so like this is the most important thing of the entire chapter. You need to treat anyone who works with you like your customers and think of like how you can serve them. That is the most important thing from this entire chapter. Number 2, traction is more powerful than money. You will have something that no other founder who is approaching this developer has. I'll tell you, as a developer, I get asked to work on projects all the time. And they're always unproven projects. They're just things that the founder is very passionate about, but that's all they're bringing to me. They're not bringing a solution to any of my problems, and they're certainly not bringing any traction to me. So you have done this work, though. You have done the difficult work of proving that there is a problem, that you can reach people who have the problem, that they'll pay for a solution, that you can solve the problem. You're coming with all those things to the table, and when you offer someone the ability to help you solve people's problems, you are offering them a seat on a rocket ship, right? You're offering them to be a part of something that they likely have never been a part of before, something starting from the ground up that's going to succeed. So this is way, way more powerful than any amount of money, because there are lots of people who will pay this developer money. You're not going to be able to compete on that front. But there are very, very few people who are going to be able to offer them the opportunity to work on something that is proven to actually solve a problem and make money. All right, so if you can tell them those two things, I've proven that it can make money and I can prove that it solves a problem, they are going to be very excited about this. Because developers in their nature are people who love to solve problems. So remember, your biggest asset isn't any amount of money that you can offer or even equity. It's about the ability to be part of something that solves a problem and has the potential to be very, very big. So use that traction to your advantage. Finally, the keys to friend sourcing: keep it short term. If you're asking for this person to invest anything more than 6 weeks, that's a rough ballpark. If you're asking for anything more than 6 weeks, you're shooting yourself in the foot. I would aim for basically a 2 to 4 week commitment from them. Something that's like large enough that you can build something interesting and you can automate your solution, but small enough that they don't feel like they're signing up for another job. Something that they can easily see the end of the rainbow. So keep it short term. Now, if it turns out you love working together and and you continue on your path to victory, then you can talk about how to extend your relationship and how you can make it more long term. But keep it short term for now. All right, let's talk about payment. Like, how do you pay these people, these friends? Like I said, in the 2 scenarios I've done this, I haven't paid anything. I've made it very clear from the beginning, like, hey, this is something we're going to try. It's an experiment. I am, if it works, if after these 3 weeks we'd like to work together, then I would love to talk about how we can make something happen. But for now, let's just play around. Let's just see what happens. If you want, you can sign some sort of agreement and contract. I have not when I've done this. Now, because these have not been successful ventures, we haven't had anything to worry about. So I can't. So a lawyer is going to tell you to get something in writing, and I'm not going to disagree with that at all. So you can definitely, I would encourage you to think about how to do that. I just can't speak from a position of experience on having done that. Now, one of the things I have done is I have worked with someone else as a co-founder on their company. That they had already started a company, and then I hopped on. And the way we worked out this arrangement is something that you can consider as well. The idea was that we would work together for, I think we decided that we would work together for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, we would decide, each of us, if we wanted to continue a long-term relationship. If we decided that we did, then we would backdate the vesting of my shares to the 3 months to my start date. If you don't know about vesting shares, look it up. We won't cover that here. So we basically start my employment 3 months before that. if we decided, either of us decided that we didn't want to pursue a long-term committed founder relationship with each other, then he would simply pay me an hourly rate for my time that I committed through those 3 months. So we gave it a shot. We did it. About 6 weeks in, I decided that this wasn't the business for me, and then I backed out. And we both still hang out and talk all the time. Everyone's super happy. But I didn't actually ask for the money. I had a good enough time. I thought it was a great experience. So we just left. It didn't cost him anything, and I ended up giving him 6 weeks of my time. So that's definitely something you can consider. Some sort of backdating or some sort of retroactive payment. You can write a contract that says, hey, you know what? This is going to be, there's not going to be any payment exchanged for any services that you're providing during this 6-week period. But if we decide to work after that, then I'll make you a full-fledged co-founder, or I'll give you some amount of equity. So you can think about how to backdate and how to sort of pay someone for that if you decide to do something long-term. All right. So the exercise for this chapter looks a lot like an exercise you've already done. The exercise was how to interview like a pro. And what you did in that exercise was you picked over a week you had to go and interview basically some random people to practice your interviewing skills in a networking event, a social event, and some family and friends. In this case, we're going to take that networking skill that you started to develop and we're going to go crazy with it. And that's how you're going to end up making friends with developers. You're going to make friends with developers by using the same techniques that you got to understand the problems of a customer. You can use those same techniques to go make friends with developers and your development team, if you decide to go down this friend sourcing path. So, the question we need to ask before we sort of dive in and let you loose on this worksheet is, where are developers? So where are you going to find these people? Now, here's a hint. If you haven't been running into a lot of developers, the developers are not where you are. Developers, a lot of business-oriented founders think that there are no developers out there because they're going to startup meetups, they're going to founder meetups, they're going to fundraising meetups and events. That's not where developers are. If you think that's where developers are, you're not thinking of your team like customers. You're not thinking about them as people you can serve in order to mutually benefit each other. So what you need to think about is, where are developers with problems? Where are the developers who have something who are taking some action to help solve a problem they currently have with their development situation? Like I said, there are a lot of problems that developers have. They're bored with the work that they're doing. They're not being challenged enough. Maybe they're just not satisfied. So many developers want to make an impact in the world and they don't feel like they're doing it. Maybe they want to try this startup thing, but they don't have, they don't have the ability to leave their job. They've got kids, or maybe they just don't have the risk tolerance for it. So there's so many reasons why, or maybe they've just been laid off. They were part of a startup and now they want to do something else. Or maybe they were in school and they want to do a startup but they haven't had a chance, or no one's hired them yet. So there are a lot of developers with problems out there that you can help solve, that you are in a unique position to help them solve. The question is, where are they going? Where can you find those people? So you need to put yourself in those channels, essentially, to go find those people. All right, so some examples of places they go, devs with problems go. Number one, they go to coding groups or user groups. They may want to be learning a new language, or maybe they want to teach other people a language they already know. So go and check those out. Maybe you can kind of combine the U-sourcing solution and the friend sourcing solution by going and trying to learn Ruby on Rails. And while you're there, maybe you make some friends with some developers and you understand what their problems are. Maybe eventually you can help offer them a solution to their problem by helping you solve your problem. 2, hackathons. Hackathon is a great place to meet developers who they've been coding all week, but they want to code some more, and they want to code some more maybe because they don't really love what they're doing at their work, or maybe they're just addicted and they love side jobs. So you are creating basically a 2 to 6 week hackathon for them. So go hang out there, go try and build something with them, go talk to them, and make some friends at hackathons. 3, startup weekends. So developers aren't going to go to fundraising events and pitch competitions, but they will go to startup weekends because they want that flavor of what it's like to go work in a company. And overall, what you can see in them in all of these things, they all want to build something. So to find developers who are not satisfied with the work they're doing now, go to places where they can build something in their free time, in their spare time. That's where you're going to find the people who are going to be most amenable to you helping them solve their problem. So once you go to where these developers are, what do? You're going to do your customer interview script with them. You're going to ask them 5 questions. You're going to ask them you're going to let them do most of the talking. You're going to ask them to identify what project are they working on. Almost every engineer or creative person is working on some project, either at work or on the side, almost always on the side, that they would love to tell you about. Everyone is working on a pet project and they're super excited that anyone would ask them about it. So ask them, hey, what are you working on these days? What are you doing for fun? What are you playing with? And they'll just like a customer who likes to talk about their problems, they will rattle off and tell you everything about their project. Then you can ask them, yeah, what's the biggest challenge with either that project, or what's the biggest challenge with work? Why is that interesting to you? Basically, try and figure out what problem are they trying to solve personally with them on a personal level by doing this side project. So you're just going to have like a genuine, warm conversation with these people, just like you would with your customers. And you're going to go to these 3 networking events over the time frame that you choose. And then you're going to find at least 3 people at each of these events, and you're going to understand their name, what project are they working on, and what problems are they trying to solve with themselves. You're going to note them down. And once you have those, you've got 9 potential people that you may be able to bring onto your team. I'll tell you, this is literally how I got my 11-person team and how I got my 7-person team, with doing great networking. This is great networking. Asking people what they're working on, finding out why they're working on it, what problem they're trying to solve, and then helping them solve their solution. That is the way to be an incredible networker. And that's the way that you are going to build your friend sourcing team. All right, so with that, we have talked about how you go about building your development team. Talked about what you do if you don't code. You can either outsource your solution, you can either learn to code, or you can friend source your solution by finding a way that building your product solves someone else's problem. We've talked about how you can get free development, and that's by bringing your traction to the table and bringing something that they can't get something else anywhere else. That is the ability to work on a successful project and do it in a startup experience. So that's how you get a free development team. Your traction is worth more money, and your opportunity is worth more money if you have the traction than they'll ever be able to get anywhere else. Where to find a team? You find your team at the place that they're going to solve their problems now, just like you find your early adopters. And then how to attract the best devs the way to attract the best devs is to treat them like your customers. Understand how you can serve them, and you will be offering a unique opportunity with your traction to go help them try something new, try something that's going to work, and try something that's fast, startup, and if you are consumer facing. All right, up next is not building your dev team. That's what this exercise is. Up next is the next exercise. All right, this has been scaling. This has not been scaling to victory. This has been building your dev team. Now go out there and build a kick-ass team.